tension, based on real events. My family has passed this story down for generations. It happened in 1919, not long after the death of Theodore Roosevelt. My great-great-grandfather, Samuel Whitaker, a mountaineer from the Blue Ridge, found himself working near Oyster Bay, New York. On Sundays he would hike to a weathered chapel set well beyond town. An hour or more on foot along a dirt road where the morning fog clung low and the pines dripped like they were sweating. On those walks he kept meeting the same man. Tall and lean, in a U.S. Army colonel's tunic, ramrod straight, with a neatly combed mustache and round spectacles that caught no light. The stranger never spoke. He would kneel, motionless, for nearly 2 hours, then vanish between one blink and the next. When he passed, the crickets stopped, Samuel's pocket watch would stall at the same minute, and his breath smoked pale even in warm air. One overcast, breathless day their paths crossed at the chapel doors. Samuel glanced up, froze, and the world seemed to tilt. He was staring into the face of Theodore Roosevelt. The face was bloodless, the gaze heavy, and on the temples and across the upper lip lay bruised shadows, as if someone else's pain had been pressed there like a seal. Roosevelt's lips moved without sound, shaping prayers that Samuel felt more than heard, a hush so deep it matted the fog. Inside, a gray-haired deacon and a few veterans tried to steady the air with scripture. One offered water, another whispered from Psalm 130. When Samuel stammered what he'd seen, the deacon only nodded. His work isn't finished. He prays not for himself but for this country. The chapel door shuddered. A scent of cordite and sea salt wind slipped through the nave. The candle flames drew thin, and the colonel winked out like a snuffed lantern, leaving frost on the rail though it was June. Samuel never returned. At first light, he said, the chapel lay cracked open as if dropped from a height. Its bell was sunk halfway into the earth, and the hamlet around it stood empty. No footprints, no smoke, fresh green where paths had been. He went back to the Blue Ridge with hair gone gray at the temples and a story none of us can quite settle, only carry. Next scary story. Years ago we spent every summer at Uncle Mike's place in St. Martin Parish, Louisiana. At the very end of August, as always, our parents drove down to collect us. They left late. By the time they hit the parish line it was full night. The road was familiar but black as pitch, streetlights few and far between, and they kept their speed up, hoping to make it by midnight. Past Bro Bridge the highway curled toward the edges of the Atchafalaya Basin, where the pavement runs between water and reeds. There were no lamps out there, only headlights tunneling through fog that pooled low over the ditch. Then the beams found a figure, a tall, slender girl with long hair, so tall that Mom first thought she must be standing on bicycle pedals. But as they closed the distance there was no bicycle, only a pale dress hanging wet to the knees and hair that drifted though the air was still. The radio fell into static. The dashboard clock froze at 12:07. Cold breathed through the vents, smelling of swamp and iron. Foot by foot the fear grew until the girl wasn't there anymore. One blink and she was gone, as if the fog had swallowed her. Dad slammed the brakes. Seatbelts bit. They got out, sure they'd hit someone, sweeping the shoulder with a flashlight, checking the cattails and the black water. They found no one, just a single damp handprint on the inside of the passenger window and 3 long streaks of mud across the grill, already drying into nothing. A pickup rolled up and idled behind them. The driver, an older man in a sheriff's cap, asked if they'd seen the tall girl. He pointed with his chin toward the bend. Long time back, a young couple went off right there. Folks say she tries to wave you down for help. If you look too long, you follow her eyes. He let them see the crosses staked in the reeds. The glow of votive candles blew in the mist. We pull cars out every year. Some we don't. The bottom keeps what it takes. They drove the rest of the way in silence. In the morning, when they picked us up, Mom's hands were still shaking on the wheel. She swore the road felt different on the way back, as if the asphalt remembered them, and that every time the clock hit 12:07, the air turned damp and the engine lost a little power. We never take that route anymore. On late, humid nights, when the house goes quiet, she still wakes to the smell of brackish water and the faint rub of a palm on glass. Next scary story. I had just turned 17 when I went to my uncle's cabin outside Elkins, West Virginia, to clear my head and spend the summer in the hills. One morning, my friends Tyler and Mia and I hiked down to Shaver's Fork with a little grill and a bag of steaks. We found a pretty slope above the water, laughed, talked, and didn't notice the day bleeding away until the sun slipped behind the ridge and the woods felt a size larger than they had at noon. The walk back cut through a stand of fir and hemlock, the kind that turns dusk into night fast. Sunset wasn't gone yet, but the understory was already thick with shadow. After a few minutes, I got that itch between the shoulders, like we were being watched, but not from behind. Felt ahead of us, threaded through the branches. The bugs went quiet all at once. Our steps started echoing wrong, as if a fourth set of feet lagged half a beat behind. Tyler raised his phone light. The beam caught breath mist that wasn't ours in the warm air, and then nothing. That's when we saw her. A bent old woman came down the path toward us, slow, as if each step had to be negotiated. She carried a heavy burlap sack slung over one shoulder and moved like the sack knew the way better than she did. Up close, her shape looked too long, like the dark had stretched her. "I'm lost," she said, voice low and muffled, as though it came from inside the sack. The nearest house was 6 miles back, and she was barely shuffling, yet her boots were wet to the laces and smelled of creek mud and iron. We tried to ask if she needed help. She didn't answer, just whispered something that sounded like rules, hitched the bundle higher, and walked past. We stepped to go, and the forest exploded. A dead maple cracked and slammed across the trail right in front of us, throwing up rot and dust. If we'd taken one more step when we meant to, it would have crushed us flat. We stood there coughing and shaking, staring at the trunk. I spun to look for the woman, gone. The path behind us was empty. A black cat sat 3 paces off, silent as a knot, its eyes catching our lights, one bright, one milk white. I blinked and it was already deeper in the brush, where something padded away without sound. On the trunk, 3 long streaks had dragged through the dust, as if fingers had tested the weight before it fell. We made it back without talking. Later, lying awake at the cabin, I kept thinking, what if she wasn't lost at all? What if she stepped in front of us at exactly the right moment to slow us down? I don't know what was in the sack, or why the woods held its breath, or why the cat watched like a second pair of eyes. I only know we don't take that trail at dusk anymore, and sometimes, when the wind comes up from the river, the screen door scuffs as if something burlap is brushing past, and I say thank you to the dark without waiting to hear it answer. Thanks for watching until the next scary stories.